So if you're growing any Homestead Verbena and it's getting leggy like this, then you're gonna wanna watch this video and learn how to keep Verbena a nice, compact, tight, and tidy plant. You wanna get the Homestead varieties of Verbenas. These are the ones that are basically evergreens. They are just the most hardy for our Zone 9 region. They bloom practically all year long. In the summertime, they're not super heavy bloomers, but they don't wither away as much as the other ones do. So if you are wondering which Verbena you can rely on is the most reliable, it is the Homestead variety. Now, Homestead Purple is the one that I see the most common of, but if you see a Homestead in another color, it's worth trying because that's the variety that's known to tolerate the conditions of our region better than others. So for some reason, Verbena tends to get leggy on its own. Even if it's in the right conditions, it just tends to do that as it ages. And one of the best things you can do to stimulate growth and more bloom is to keep trimming it back hard. Now, if you're wanting it to spread, then don't cut the runners that you in the direction that you're wanting it to go. You can just lay those down, and it might be good to put a landscape staple in them to keep them in that direction. But the ones that are just kind of growing loosely that you're not trying to grow, you need to cut those back aggressively to stimulate new bushier growth, and it will still bloom on the new growth, even in the snow. Last year we had snow for a good 3 or 4 days, and my Homestead hot pink Verbena bloomed nonstop through the entire winter, even with snow on it. So this is one plant. If you want to get the most enjoyment out of it, then give it a good aggressive pruning at least twice a year. You could do it 3 times a year if you want, if you see it getting leggy, but if you keep it compact and dense and full of leaves and full of blooms, that's the way to do it. And I have found this to be true for all Verbenas. It's not just the Homestead variety, but the reason why I'm focusing on the Homestead variety is because in our region, this is a must-have. This variety of Verbena is going to outperform any other variety that I've seen of Verbena in all my time of gardening. And now it doesn't come in as many fun colors. And that doesn't mean you can't get the other Verbenas. There's no harm in trying, but if you want a hands-down guaranteed performer of Verbena, then you definitely want to get the Homestead variety. So here's another one getting all leggy, and just all the new growth is happening on the end rather than by the stems. So it's good to get a little aggressive, cut them back all the way to the main stem if you have to, just to open up some room or create the room for it to generate new growth. It only wants to bloom on the new growth. So what happens is the old growth gets bald and woody, and it puts out new leaves on the tips and keeps growing from there to continue growing and blooming. So then you're left with a bunch of old woody stems as it keeps growing. So to regenerate growth at the base and where those woody stems are, it's how hard you have to cut it back in order to get that bushiness again at the base of the plant. It will never bush out right here without being pruned to that area. So cutting all these back, that's what all this is. All of this area and all these sticks are just Verbena that needs to be pruned back. You can have a carpet of blooms, or you can have a speckle of blooms. So the patch that you see right here is what this area looked like when it was all leggy, and you could see the woody stems and everything like that. So this is what it looks like when you keep the woody stems trimmed back. Every couple months, come in, just thin out those woody stems. You will have a much fluffier patch of your Verbena. So you can have it look sparse and leggy like this, or you can have it look nice and fluffy and full like this. And the way that you get it to stay fluffy and full is by snipping those branches back. So anytime you see woody stems, it really doesn't matter what time of the year, like this right here, bare and then some leaves on the end, it's only going to want to grow from this point out unless you give it a snip. And by giving it a snip, you're helping direct energy further down the stem. But this is just the natural habit of Verbena. It's not that you're doing anything wrong, it's just the natural growth habit. The Homestead variety is going to outperform any other Verbena, and that's made to this day. In my experience, the Homestead variety has never let me down, and it's just more dependable year-round than any other Verbena. All Verbenas will grow and get lanky. So even though this has a flower on it, I'm still going to take it back and trim it down. The long-term result of keeping this verbena tidy is just better. And I'm gonna keep trimming it down low here, just so these runners can go this way. I'm gonna cut this one a little more. And I see all these are budding out, and I don't have a problem with them, but I would rather them bud out and fill in this direction. So that's why I'm just thinning this out a little bit to help some of this area get filled in more. But you can do this even in the hottest of summer. In fact, I encourage it in the hottest of summer, because to me, that's when verbena looks at its worst. No matter what verbena you have, and I'll admit, I grow a bunch of different types of verbena. I don't only grow the Homestead. I just put the Homestead where I know I want something to be all year. But I'll use the other verbenas more like annuals, even though they may outperform my intentions, but at least I'm prepared for them to not perform if they do wither away, which is most of the time. But no matter what verbena, I always trim it back when it gets leggy, and it will always benefit from this trimming. You just want to make sure it is still well watered. You won't want to add to the dehydration. If you're trimming a plant that's thirsty, you're going to have some negative consequences there. So just make sure you're still keeping it watered, and that you give your verbena a nice little haircut, and that you pay attention to the hydration when you're doing that. This verbena right here is looking fabulous, but it's just taken over this rose bush a little too much and covering the pathway. So what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and deadhead a lot of these spent blooms to help encourage more blooms that it may want to put out. The other thing I'm going to do is try to acknowledge that little stone that's here underneath this. Now, I'm not going to clear out I'm not going to cut the verbena perfectly around the stone, because I want to keep that natural flow going through. But I'm just going to delicately focus a little bit of clearing here, heavier than in other places, just in case, one, if somebody needs it, but also I just like the idea of it peeking through, show how the verbena is just naturalizing and doing its own thing. But just a little bit out of place, enough to recognize naturalism, something natural. And that's enough to where somebody could step here without stepping on the plant. And yet at the same time, I feel like it just adds another element to the garden and accents that plant's growth habit a little more. But this is how I keep up the verbena while it's in bloom, and then also give it a little bit of directional training to go or grow more in the direction I want, and motivate it or steer it in the way that I prefer. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Garden Beauty. Feel free to leave any questions or suggestions in the comment section below, and I hope you'll join me again next time.